do the other sources from Rambam, Gemara, Navi, from all the sources before the Rebbe even speaks about Mashiach, just the general sources about Mashiach. So now we're in the middle of Rambam, and the Rambam has 2 chapters on the subject. What we covered until now was chapter 11, and now what we're going to do, we have, and chapter 12. Now we're going to do chapter 12. The difference between chapter 11 and chapter 12 is chapter 11 was all about the person. Who is Mashiach? How do we identify him? What are the signs that he's not Mashiach? What is he expected to do? And so on. That's chapter 11. Chapter 12 is not about the person, but about the era. What's going to happen in that time? What do we expect to happen when Mashiach comes? How will the world change? In what way? So before we continue, there are 2 of the terms that I didn't point out to you to check off. One is number 15. One of the things we covered on Tuesday was also from Rambam, where the Rambam writes that one of the signs of Mashiach is that there'll be a global movement of tshuva. And he writes, as soon as that movement, that'll take place, miyad hein negolim, immediately the Jews will go out of Golus. So that's number 15. Those are the words in Hebrew, miyad hein negolim. Again, very often people make reference to that quote. The Rebbe himself made reference to this quote probably a few hundred times, that after the Jews do tshuva, miyad hein negolim. So tshuva is a prerequisite, and miyad hein negolim is the end result. Miyad, immediately they will go out of Golus. The second thing which we didn't check off was number 45. Remember, we asked the question, how is it possible that earlier generations who were greater tzaddikim than us, they didn't merit to bring Mashiach, and we do merit? And we said there's a famous mashal, it's like a midget standing on the shoulders of a giant. So that's number 45. Again, the Hebrew is kananas al gabe anak. Nanas means a midget, and anak means a giant. So it's like a midget standing on the, so again, if somebody would say the words, it's like a midget on the shoulders of a giant, usually they're referring to this or a similar subject, that Mashiach is coming because of what we're doing, that's true. But the only reason why we do would make such an impact is because we're on the shoulders of a giant, meaning all the generations and all the giants preceding us, after everything they did, now the little bit we do is going to make the final end of Golus. So now let's go to the Rambam inside, which is chapter 12. Rambam says as follows. So we already begin with another term. Look at the words in the Hebrew for a second. Al yale al halev, which means you don't even think that in the Messianic age, something will change in the world order, so to speak. So these 2 words, Yemois HaMashiach, which literally means the days of Mashiach, or Mashiach era, Mashiach age, is definitely a term that we need to refer to. It means the times of Mashiach. What exactly that means is precisely what we're going to be learning about. But it's a term, and mark it off in your terms on number 3. You'll see Yemois HaMashiach, which means there's the person, which is Melech HaMashiach, and Yemois HaMashiach means the time of Mashiach, the era of Mashiach. Are we already in the era of Mashiach or not? That depends on how do we define that era. So Rambam writes like this: the era of Mashiach, or the days of Mashiach, or the age of Mashiach, nothing will change in terms of the nature of the world, which means there won't be any innovations in the work of creation. The world will continue according to its pattern, which means the world will still follow the natural order. On the surface, It seems to be shocking. We're always thinking of Mashiach, or the miracles that are going to happen, how the world will be very different than the world we know today. And in fact, one of the miracles which we're all looking forward to is the miracle of Tchias HaMesim, where the dead will come back to life. How could the Rambam say when Mashiach comes, nothing will change in the nature of the world? There could be nothing more, no greater change than dead people coming back to life. So the answer is that this is similar to what we had in the first chapter. It doesn't mean that these things won't happen. It means that what defines the era of Mashiach, it's not miracles. The time of Mashiach is going to be defined by something else. Remember, we had the same question with the person. Does Mashiach have to perform miracles to be identified as Mashiach or not? And the Rambam writes, no, it doesn't have to. It doesn't mean he won't. It doesn't mean they can't be. But it means this is not the criteria that defines this person as Mashiach. If he's a tzaddik, and if he's a descendant of King David, and if he does A, B, C, and D, all the different things, then we can identify him as Mashiach, even if he doesn't perform miracles. Same here. Anything is possible, but what defines the days of Mashiach is not necessarily anything miraculous. In fact, things will continue in its natural pattern, and there'll be other things that will define it, as we'll soon see. But it does say clearly in the books of the Navi, the prophets, that there will be changes. For example, in Isaiah, it says the wolf will dwell with the lamb, the leopard will lie down with the young goat. These are animals that normally one would devour the other. If a wolf sees a little sheep, the wolf will devour the sheep. If a leopard will see a goat, it'll tear it apart. These are animals that are that this is what they eat. So the Rambam writes, this is a metaphor and a parable. The interpretation of the prophecy is as follows. Israel will dwell securely together with the wicked Gentiles who are likened to a wolf and a leopard in the prophecy. In other words, there were times where we had neighbors that were non-Jews that were friendly to us, and there were those who were wicked and they attacked us. So the Torah is telling us that when Mashiach will come, even the wicked Gentiles, even the wicked nations will all become friendly to us. And the metaphor is they're compared to a lion, or they're compared to a wolf, or they're compared to a leopard. And at that time, they won't be harmful anymore. Where do we see in the prophets that the nations of the world are compared to these animals? Let's turn the page. Shanem, as it says, this is quoting something from one of the books of the prophets. In the bottom, I'm sure it says which one it is. Where it says, Ze'ev Arav, actually this is from the Chumash. Ze'ev Arav is Yeshadadaim. The wolf will come from the wilderness, shall spoil them, and the leopard shall store up their cities. But it doesn't mean the animals, it actually means those nations that will attack us. But at that time, all these nations will return to the true faith. Doesn't mean they'll be Jewish. True faith means they'll believe in Hashem, they'll believe in the 7 mitzvahs, and they'll no longer steal. So now there's another pasuk that also says they will eat. It says in the Torah, in the prophets, Isaiah, the lion will eat straw like an ox. Right now, a lion is a predator, and a lion eats meat. So a lion kills another animal and then eats the meat, or God forbid a person. Then a lion will eat straw like a cow, not eat other animals. Is that literally, or is it a metaphor? So the Rambam saying it could be a metaphor. It means they will no longer steal other people's things, definitely not our things, but they will only do things that are permissible. Now the Rambam himself wrote about Mashiach in other places. There are letters that he wrote. It's called the Igeres Taman, a very famous letter. It's called the Letter to Yemen. There was a time where there was an issue in the community in Yemen about someone who said, is Mashiach, is he Mashiach, is he not Mashiach? And he wrote a letter about this subject. And over there, I think that's where he writes, maybe it's in another one of his books, but I know one of his books he writes that what he wrote here, that it doesn't mean literally it's a metaphor, so it's not absolute. It means it could be literal and could be a metaphor. When Mashiach comes, we'll see how things play out. But it doesn't necessarily mean that things will have to change. In other words, if someone says, wow, things have so much changed in the world, we're definitely in the era of Mashiach. And someone will say, no, animals still eat each other. So the Rambam is saying that's not a contradiction. Things could follow the natural order, and we could already be in the era of Mashiach. So here's another term to put down on the list, and that's number 49. Number 49, the Gaz Ze'ev in Kevin. Ze'ev is a wolf, and Kevin is a lamb. That the wolf and the lamb will live peacefully. And you're probably all aware that the United Nations, which is unfortunately doesn't stand up to what it's all about, but on the wall, they call it the Isaiah Wall. If you ever visit the United Nations, maybe you'll get a chance to go to Manhattan and visit. And it is a wall opposite the United Nations, and it quotes Isaiah that no nation will lift a sword against another nation, and the quote that the wolf and the lamb will live together peacefully, which means nations will live together peacefully. No, the Jewish nation won't suffer from other nations, and nations themselves, even amongst the non-Jews, won't be fighting with each other and won't be consuming one another. They'll live together peacefully. Similarly, other messianic prophecies of this nature are metaphors. In the messianic era, everyone will realize which matters were implied by these metaphors and which illusions they contain. So right now, it's not so clear. We know it's a metaphor. A metaphor means it represents something, but we don't know clearly. We know what it means literally, but it's a metaphor for something much greater. And when Mashiach comes, then we'll look back and I'll say, now we understand what this metaphor is and that metaphor is. So if nothing will change, then what defines the era of Mashiach? Based, the second halacha. There will be no difference between the current age and Messianic era, except emancipation of our subjugation to the Gentile kingdoms. There will no longer be under other kingdoms that are rulers and basically not allow us to live our life the way we want to. Which means throughout the 2,000 years of Golus, when Jews lived mainly in countries like Spain, France, Russia, Poland, all these countries, the government controlled us, didn't allow us to do everything we wanted and to practice Judaism the way we wanted. And sometimes in history it was worse, of course, like the Holocaust and like the times of Spain when Jews were expelled from Spain, Inquisition, all sorts of things throughout history. And then will come a time we'll no longer be sort of subservient to these other kingdoms. And eventually we'll have our own kingdom. So in a sense, we can see the way the world is changing, that we are on that way. We're already getting into that. And then he goes on to say, the simple interpretation of the prophet's words, we'll soon see the Rambam will write, it's not clear exactly how things are going to happen. So the simple interpretation of the prophet's words appear to apply the following. There's going to be a war called the War of Gog and Magog. That'll be taking place at the beginning of the Messianic age. So in other words, even when we call it the Messianic age, there's still going to be wars out there. Something major is going to change for the positive, but there still will be wars. So of course, this is another famous term. It's called, and it's the term it's always used is Gog and Magog. If you ever hear those words, that's what it's referring to. There's a prophecy that says that before Mashiach comes, or as Mashiach is coming, as that era begins, remember, right? It's in the beginning of the era, there's going to be a war between Gog and Magog. I don't know how many hundreds of articles are written by so many different people. Which is the Gog and Magog war? Right now, people say, oh, that's the war between the West and the Islamic world. It's a big war. Maybe that's Gog and Magog. In other words, Gog and Magog, the words are found in the prophets. So these are biblical terms, biblical nations, but we don't know who they are today. but there are nations today that are being referred to in that prophecy. Of course, during World War I, people said, oh, that's Gog and Magog. World War II, people thought maybe this is Gog and Magog. Different kind of, but there's no clear opinion of what it really is. There are some very fascinating articles that people wrote, bringing sources, but it's not clear. I just want to say the term on this sheet is 29. Let's check it off. It'll be nice to look at the sheet later and see. No, not 29. Wrong number.
40.
Which one?
40.
Thank you. Number 40. Okay.
Is there a translation for the Gog and Magog? Like what is?
If you look at the English translation, I'm sure it's going to say G-O-G and M-A-G-O-G.
Yeah, right. Okay, so there's no like. Is it like people?
What?
Is it two people? No.
No, two nations.
Two nations.
Two nations. Yeah.
Is there any idea that one of those nations is a Jewish nation, or are we clear that it's
I
not?
think it's both are not. Yeah.
We don't know.
Right. I heard, I don't know, so the source inside that someone wrote a whole article, research how for sure the Germans are one of those nations. It might make sense because Gog and Magog sounds like this, like really huge, tremendous big war that's going to affect the whole world. So it makes sense, but still, I don't know if it's substantial. That's number one. Another thing is, let's turn the page. We're on page 16 now. And before the war of Gog and Magog, Yamod Navid is going to be a prophet who will rise, and he will be there to direct us and go in the right direction, prepare the hearts of the people to serve Hashem. Where does that say? It's in the book of Malachi, one of the books of the prophets, where it says, behold, I'm sending you Eliyahu Hanavi. So, of course, number 29, this is definitely one of the names that are very much associated with Mashiach. That Eliyahu, and the source is where it says here that I will send you Eliyahu Hanavi to inform you about Mashiach's coming. Yeah.
I'm confused. There's two options for Mashiach to come, like war between nations, and the other, we are all on tzadikim, make Teshuvah, or everything together. Like it's gonna be war and everyone doing Teshuvah, or two separate things.
First of all, there are options. What is the option? There's no options about Mashiach coming, but it's not clear what, and we'll talk about it, what exactly will be the order of things, how things will happen. Why is it not clear? Because it's all written in a metaphoric way, so it's not clear. And we'll still see more. I'm going to talk about that soon, why that is that way. But about Eliyahu Navi, I just want to give this out. So we see, this is a puzzle, just to see it inside. Anyone? Oh, thank you. There's a few other things that we'll be referring to that are on this sheet, so hold on to it. But as you see on top, it says Malachi chapter 3. Malachi, you'll notice, is on this list. One of the books of the prophets is called Trei Asar, which means 12. What does that mean? It means there's one book that is made up of 12 different prophets. So that one book, each one is very small. Might have one chapter or two chapters. For example, before Yom Kippur, you learned about Yonah. Yonah is one of the 12 small prophets. Malachi, if you look at that list, is the last one of the 12. He's one of the latest prophets. He's considered one of the latest prophets. In fact, some opinions hold that Malachi is another name for Mordechai in the story of Purim. And he writes different things about the times of Mashiach. So if you look at this sheet, on the second side, the last verse. No, it's the two last ones. Lo, I will send you Elio, the prophet, before the coming of the great and awesome day of Hashem. That's the source. And then it says, he may turn the hearts of the fathers back through the children, and the hearts of the children will be turned back through their fathers. I come and smite the earth with utter destruction, meaning to get rid of evil.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So in the question packet, question 3, what will be the function of Novi? Is that the answer? Like he's gonna turn the hearts?
He's going to bring
back
peace in the world,
Okay.
right? So here it says clearly, I will send you alien. What it doesn't say is exactly when is it going to be, before the great and awesome day. So we're going to learn that there's a question, at which point will he come? So some opinions say he's going to come before Mashiach, and he's going to announce Mashiach's coming. Some opinions hold, no. In fact, one of the proofs for that is the story that we learned about Bar Kokhba. Remember the story in the first chapter that there was a person who fought against the Romans, and he was very strong, and he captured 60 cities, and Rabbi Akiva, and all the sages said he was Mashiach. Turned out at the end he wasn't. In that case, it doesn't say that Eliyahu Navi came before. In fact, turned out he wasn't Mashiach. How do they even consider him Mashiach if they haven't heard from Eliyahu Navi before? So clearly, it's not necessarily that it has to happen in that order. He could be coming after. So he's coming after. What is he coming for? And the answer is, this is also a very important point that's going to be related to everything we're going to learn about, that even after Mashiach comes, there are going to be stages and stages and stages. Which means things will constantly be progressing. Different good things will be happening. Not necessarily will everything happen in 1 second. So just as an example, Mashiach could be coming, and it could be that there'll be certain element of peace in the world, but the base of English hasn't been built yet. And then the next part is the Mashiach's coming to build the Beis Hamikdash. Maybe that's when Eliyahu is going to come and tell us very soon the Beis Hamikdash is going to be built. Then there's another opinion that says, no, he's going to be coming to let us know before the dead will come back to life. We'll need a little, preparation for that. So he's going to come and say, it's happening soon that the dead are going to come back to life. So in other words, a lot of major changes will be taking place in different times, and we don't know exactly at which point he will come, but we do know that he's part of the process. So first of all, you see it here. Second of all, sometimes we do things, we say things, we don't necessarily pay so much attention to it. So I want to give this out because this is related to exactly, let me, Shira, give me a break. This is in benching. Every time that we bench after a meal, one of the prayers there is as follows. I'll soon show it to you as soon as you all have it in your hand. Arachaman, which means the merciful one, it's one of the names of Hashem. Send us Eliyahu, the prophet, may be remembered for good, and let him bring us good tidings, deliverance, and consolation. So it's interesting, it doesn't say he'll bring the Beis Hamikdash, he'll bring the dead back to life, or he'll bring us good news about something that's meant to happen soon. So we know for sure that Eliyahu Navi is part of that process. In fact, this is also one of the reasons why the night of Pesach, we were celebrating redemption. And we're basically celebrating redemption from Egypt, but we're also celebrating and strengthening our emunah in the future redemption. What do we have by the Seder table? Besides the 4 cups of wine, there's another cup. It's called the cup of Eliyahu Navi. And he comes. Why? Because he's the one who's going to be informing us about Geula, about redemption. Okay, that's where I just finished explaining that we're not clear exactly when. But the Rambam writes is the way it appears, simple from the simple interpretation that first Eliyahu will come, and then there'll be the war of Gog and Magog. So that's interesting because that means that even though Eliyahu came already and with such an advanced stage, there still will be wars out there, and that'll be the final war, which will probably get rid of evil. Now we come to the question of what will be the main purpose of Eliyahu, of this prophet. So he says he will not come to declare the pure and impure. He'll not come to reveal hidden secrets, that those people that we think are pure are really impure, or those people that we think are impure are really pure. He will not dispute the lineage of those presumed to be of proper pedigree, nor will he establish the pedigree of those whose lineage is presumed blemished. In other words, there's certain halachas about children that were born out of a marriage, which was inappropriate marriage, it's a certain blemish which affects them halachically. But what if it happened 6 generations ago? Nobody knows about it anymore. So some people might have the notion that the Eliyahu is going to come and he's going to reveal these hidden secrets that 6, 7 generations ago, this and this took place, and therefore the descendants of that family are really have a certain blemish. He says, no, that's not what he's coming to do. And what will he be doing? He will establish peace within the world. And that's what it means when it says the words, the Heishiv Leivavas Albanim will bring the hearts of the children to the fathers. I mean, peace between parents and children. Either he'll bring the parents closer to the children or bring the children closer to the parents. In fact, one of the things that the Rebbe says about this meaning that we see today is part of this process, that children are the ones who are bringing the parents closer to Yiddishkeit, and in some cases, the parents are the ones that are bringing the children closer to Yiddishkeit. And it means the children will turn the hearts of the parents, and the parents will turn the hearts of the children. And that's what he is in the next line. There are some sages who say that Elijah's coming will precede the coming of Mashiach. So clearly, the Rambam writes, it's not clear. Some say this and some say that. And I'm adding the reason why some say this and some say that is because both are possible. There's a possibility it could be either way. And I'll soon explain what. All these things, all these matters and similar matters cannot be known definitely by man until they occur. For these matters are undefined in the prophet's words. And even the wise men, meaning the Torah scholars, have no established tradition regarding these matters, but only their own, let's turn the page, their own interpretation of the verses. Therefore, there is controversy among them regarding these matters. So I have a question. The question is, the whole purpose of Torah is to make things clear to us. Right? Torah is called the Torah, or the Torah which brings light. When you turn on the light, everything is clear. And Torah is the one that tells us about Mashiach. Why doesn't the Torah give us a clear picture? What's going to happen? What's the order of things? What's going to happen first? What's going to happen next? Why is it blurred? Why is it like in a fog?
Maybe because Hashem wants us to be important players in bringing Mashiach. And he doesn't want it to spoon fed to us, this, but wants us to really be active participants.
That's definitely part of the process. He wants us to be active, that Mashiach will come as a merit of what we're doing. But just like we know other things about Mashiach, that he'll do this, that, which are definite, so why are there some things which are not definite? Why couldn't Hashem tell us all the things? It's already saying that there's going to be a time where the Rambam writes a metaphor that the leopard or the wolf will be peacefully with the sheep. We don't know what it means. Why don't we know what it means? Why couldn't it be more clear? He's telling us something. Why can't it be more clear? So I think the general answer to this is and it's connected to what you said. I'll soon explain why. The general answer like this: there is a Gemara, which we're going to learn when we learn Gemara. But the Gemara talks about contradictions. But there are a lot of contradictions on the subject. But one of the contradictions are the famous one is, and we'll learn about it inside, is where one place it says Mashiach will come flying in on a cloud from heaven. Another place it says he'll come riding on a donkey like a poor man. So the Gemara says, which is it? Will he come like riding on a donkey, or will he come on a cloud? And the Gemara answers, it depends. If we merit, he'll come flying in on a cloud, it means the whole process will be super miraculous. If we don't merit, he'll come anyway, but he'll come more like a person, ordinary person riding on a donkey. Which one of the ways that the commentators explain it means, we just finished learning Mashiach doesn't have to be coming in a miraculous way, but if we merit, he will come in some sort of a miraculous way. And if we don't merit, he'll come, but in a more natural way. What does that mean? It means that whether Mashiach is going to come and there's a plan A and a plan B. If we merit, there'll be plan A. If we don't, there'll be plan B. So what does it depend on? Number one, if we merit. And number two would be how much merit we have. So all those things which are not clear, the reason why it's not clear is because we have free choice. So it can't be written clearly, it's going to be this way. Maybe we won't do the things to merit it. So there's certain things which doesn't depend on our merits. Let's say, for example, the fact that Mashiach will build the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, the third temple, doesn't depend on our merit. That's going to happen regardless. But whether Mashiach will come in a cloud or in a donkey, that depends on us. And many other things. So all those things which are not clear means that there is a possibility for different scenarios. And those different scenarios depend on us. And being that Hashem gives us free choice, it can be written in the Torah in an absolute way. It's going to be this way. Maybe we'll act better and it'll be in a better way, in a stronger way, in a more miraculous way. So therefore, there are things which are unknown. Not to confuse us, but in order to leave the room for us to do our avoda in a way that'll bring Mashiach. And depending on, I just give an example, like I remember reading somewhere, one of the commentaries say, will Mashiach come in the merit of tzedakah, that the Jews in that last generation be so exceptional in tzedakah, and that's why they'll merit Mashiach. And if that's the case, he'll come this way. If they come because they'll be so exceptional in Torah study, he'll come in a different way. If the merit that'll bring Mashiach will be because they're so exceptional in kindness to one another, he'll come in a different way. So depending on what we do, that will determine what the way Mashiach's coming will take place. Then he says something very strange. And he goes on and says, therefore, there's controversy among them regarding this, regardless of the debate concerning these questions. Neither the order of the occurrences of these events nor their precise details are among the fundamental principles of faith. A person should not occupy himself with the agadot, homiletics concerning these and similar matters, nor should he consider them as essentials to study them. They will neither bring fear of God or love for God. So therefore, don't delve into it. My first question is, so what are we doing here? We should cancel this class immediately. Second question is, the Rambam himself writes 2 chapters about Mashiach, and then he writes, it's not one of the fundamentals, and don't spend time on it. And the third question is, the Rambam writes that it's one of the fundamental principles of Judaism. How can he write now that it's not one of the fundamentals? There's one answer to all 3 questions. And the answer is, the Rambam is not saying that Mashiach is not one of the fundamentals. The Rambam is saying that there's certain details about Mashiach's coming, that's not one of the fundamentals. The belief that Mashiach is going to come, he's going to take us out of exile, build the Beis HaMikdash, all those things which the Rambam writes as a definite, those are part of the basic belief of Mashiach. The order of things, will A happen before B or will B happen before A? Will this take place first or that takes place? Is Gog and Magog going to be an actual war? For example, I know there are certain sages that say that the war of Gog and Magog already took place. It's one of the wars that happened in the past. Then there's some that say it doesn't have to happen physically. It could be some sort of a spiritual phenomena, and that's the war of Gog and Magog. So all these things are not clear. That's to believe that it's this way and not the other way is not a basic principle of belief, because they can be either way. And therefore the Rambam says, don't even go and delve into it, because this is not part of the essentials. But the essentials are whatever he writes here in chapter 11 and chapter 12. That's part of the essentials. But why are we still talking about the unessentials? We're still talking about all these different things. So the answer is, the time will come that Mashiach will come and Mashiach will be here. Will we talk about these details then also, or still not? When he actually comes and people will be talking, so what's going to happen next? Or where is it going to be? We'll be talking about those details, or we'll be, don't talk about it.
We don't know.
Of course, when the time comes, of course, we'll all be talking about it. Let's say they're building the third base of Mikdash. There'll be a big discussion. So when is it going to be built? How long will it take? If they don't, there's something very wrong. Everyone's going to be excited about what's going on. There'll be all sorts of discussions. By the way, you know when we're going to celebrate it? The third base of English is going to be celebrated in this month, Cheshvan.
What is it celebrate?
The Chagiga, Chanukah Habayit.
Yeah, I know, but what is mean as Cheshvan?
So it says in Gemara that Shlomo Melech built the base of Mikdash. It took him 7 years to build it, and it was finished in this month, the month of Cheshvan. So he was ready to make a big celebration, start. So Hashem said through prophecy, don't do it now, wait. So everything was ready, but they waited. And then almost a year later, when the month of Tishrei came, then it was built. As we know, the 8th day of Tishrei, they celebrated for 14 days, and that was the celebration. So it says in the Medrash that the month of Cheshvan came to Hashem with a complaint and said, I was supposed to be hosting this big celebration. It was taken away from me. Not fair. Who's the month of Cheshvan? It's a month. What do you mean? The answer is everything in the world has an angel that's in charge of that. So there's an angel that's in charge of the month of Cheshvan. That's his function. And this angel came to Hashem and said, this is supposed to be my way of serving Hashem, celebrating the temple, and it was taken away from me. So Hashem said, I promise you that when the third base of Mikdash will be built, that celebration will be in your month. So that'll be the compensation. Now, we already had something like this in the past. Yeah.
I was going to say, so then will we no longer call it Mar Cheshvan?
Well, if you think of the word mar as the being bitter, you're right. But mar has another definition. It means drops of water. It's when rain starts. So if that's the definition, let's still continue. What's the example? Where did we have this in the past? Hanukkah. It says in the Medrash that Moshe Rabbeinu was told to build the sanctuary in the desert, and he finished it in Kislev. It was finished on the 25th day of Kislev. He was ready to make the celebration. Hashem said, wait. So it waited a few months. Teves, Shvat, Adar, Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Hashem said, okay, today we're going to start building the sanctuary. And even then, it was put up for 7 days and taken down. But then they started celebrating every day from the Rosh Nisan. They were celebrating for the next 12 days. So it says exactly the same thing. The month of Kislev came to Hashem and said, it's not fair. I was supposed to be hosting this celebration. It was taken away from me. So Hashem said, in the future, you'll have the opportunity to do it. What was that? Hanukkah. Hanukkah is on the 25th day of Kislev. When they won the war with the Greeks, they took the Beis Hamikdash back, and they dedicated it for the next 8 days with lighting the menorah. But when did it start? On the 25th of Kislev. So basically, it was corrected. And the same will be with Mashiach. So therefore, what we're saying is that this is the time that Mashiach, when the time comes, there's no doubt that this will be the talk of the town. What's happening, when it's happening, how's it going to happen? Because it's already happening. So what the Rebbe is telling us that now we're living in the time where things are already happening. And therefore, this idea that don't think about it because it's not right now, not relevant, the answer is now it is relevant. because we're already witnessing miracles that are taking place in the world that are miracles related to the times of Mashiach. And every once in a while, I bring it up in class. You might read it in some article. You might see it coming up on the WhatsApp. Things that are happening, which are clearly something which is brought down, and that this is something will happen in the future. I mentioned the other day that in the future we'll see a global movement of tshuva. We're already seeing it happening now. So we're not just talking about what's going to happen. We're already in the process. And once we're in the process, it makes sense that now is the time that we should talk about even the details. Okay, we'll stop right here in the middle. And we'll continue next Friday, Mirza Hashem, from the Rambam. Okay. Yeah.
It means it doesn't matter when Betamid is gonna be, we're gonna celebrate in Cheshvan.
Yeah, even if it'll be built in a different month, but the celebration will be in Cheshvan, right? At the time, Cheshvan will say, I don't care, I don't mind, celebrate earlier. Okay, cool. And it'll also work. Have a good Shabbos, everybody.